And I just wonder, first of all, what you read into this announcement that there will be expanded ground operations.
Well, I think it's consistent with the approach that the IDF, the Israelis, have taken over the last little while. They are very, very conscious that back on the 7th of October, they were very much seen as the victim of the Hamas attack. But in recent days and weeks, as their bombing campaign has gone on against Hamas in Gaza, that they are now being seen as the aggressor. So they are signaling their intent. They're persuading or asking Gazans to head south out of the area of conflict, as it would seem that they are going to deliver on their word without making some further ground incursion. Now, whether this is the major ground intervention with the major ground attack, or whether, like 24 hours ago, a more limited incursion, I think only time will tell. But I think we should be in no doubt at all that the potential for escalation, the potential for this whole situation in the Middle East to get out of hand is increasingly worrying.
Yeah, and I want to talk about that in just a moment, Lord Dannatt. But if it is to be a much more significant incursion, a major operation, a bit odd to signal that something is about to happen, isn't it?
Well, yes and no. I mean, I think it's been pretty obvious for the last 3 weeks that at some point the Israelis would go into Gaza. I mean, they've said that their stated mission is to destroy Hamas. You can only do that if you go and close with them and carry through the threat and the actuality of a ground incursion. So I don't think the fact that they say that they're going to do it is a great surprise. The Hamas forces are expecting it. I think what they're trying to do, not unreasonably, is to appeal to world opinion, to say we are giving the Gazan population with whom we have no fight the opportunity to flee, the opportunity to move out of the battle area, because we're serious about this. It's Hamas, not you, the Palestinian people, that we're fighting. It's Hamas that we're coming after. But of course, the complication is that this war is not going to be fought in the streets of Gaza. It's going to be fought largely in the tunnels under Gaza. And of course, that is where the 200 plus Israeli hostages are being held. This is a major headache for the Israelis. And frankly, I'm not quite sure I can work out how they can possibly do this without bringing a disaster upon themselves, the hostages, their families. And, well, it's a very, very complex situation, which I think the IDF are scratching their heads hugely over how to know to take it forward.
Yeah, well, that is a good point, Lord Dannatt. And with that in mind, do you think it will, when it happens, be a, big invasion with tanks and infantry and so forth? Or will they go a little way in, create some sort of buffer zone and then, targeted operations in and out, as it were? What do you think?
Well, if they go for the big option, they may well move in with a lot of their heavy armor in order to dominate or to try to dominate the surface space. But as I said a moment or two ago, the real problem is going to be in this 300-mile plus network of tunnels under Gaza. I mean, just think about it. The Gaza Strip is no more in size than the Isle of Wight. 300 miles of tunnels is extraordinary. A tragedy is that international money that's gone into Gaza over the last 5, 10, 15 years hasn't been sent on improving their infrastructure and the welfare of their people. It's been on building this great defensive infrastructure. And there is no doubt that that is where the Israeli hostages are. So Netanyahu is very much between a rock and a hard place as far as this is concerned. And certainly if I was the Israeli ground commander, I would be really struggling to know what the right approach is. And it may well be that a short in and out is the right answer. And it may well be that to listen to world opinion might be the right thing to do, and possibly even consider acceding to a pause or a ceasefire might be the right thing to do, just to reflect on what is the right way to get people out of this terrible mess. And again, put it back in the widest context.
And given...
Okay, go on.
So, sorry, given what you have just been saying, what do you make of the intensity of the bombing campaign that has been going on for the last 20 days or so, and the civilian death toll that has inevitably led to?
Well, I think this is the outworking of the Israelis' clear statement that their intention is to destroy Hamas. Now, they are not going about bombing in a willy-nilly fashion. They are trying to use as much of their intelligence as they can to bomb as precise a number of targets as they can. But in a heavily built-up area like Gaza, you're inevitably going to kill innocent people when you're trying to strike what you probably honestly believe, and intelligence has told you, is a Hamas command control bunker or a Hamas supply dump. But so it's inevitable, I'm afraid, and it's tragic that so many people have lost their lives. And that is why the Israelis have got to be very, very careful about whether or not they are willing to turn international opinion, which was running for them on the 7th of October, hugely against them now. So it may well be that just stopping to pause to think what is the best way through this might be the best for all parties, and it might be the Israelis' best way of getting their hostages out from under those tunnels.
Right, and just finally, there is the complication of the hostages that you've just described. Is it possible, in your view, to have a large military operation on the ground inside Gaza and an operation running almost parallel with that to get the hostages out? Is that really possible?
No, the critical operation here is the operation that the Israelis are going to try and conduct in those tunnels. Frankly, if you just stop and think about it, it's a nightmare proposition. Hamas have been preparing those tunnels for years, preparing to protect themselves, preparing to fight in those tunnels, and they've got 200 plus hostages in there as human shields, as bargaining chips. It is a very complex situation. It's a nightmare scenario. And as I've said a moment or two ago, if I was the Israeli commander, I would be really struggling to know what the right way to go about this is, which is why I think politically, the better option is to take a pause for reflection, and maybe consider whether there is a better way than more people losing their lives, both on the Palestinian side and the Israeli side. I think it's just worth considering that.